Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Cricket and the King YouTube channel. I'm Ben and today we're going to talk about whether or not it's the end of the world. Is it the end? And the short answer is no. And the long answer is also no. Because we have been projecting the end of the world coming for a very long time as a human species. There have been people throughout history always who are always talking about some sort of doomsday whatever, okay? When I was a kid, they were like, the oceans are gonna rise, and by 2012, San Francisco will be underwater, and we're all gonna die, and the polar bears are having to swim hundreds of... Okay, and then guess what happened? 2012 came and went, we all didn't die, and then they're like, but 2020, it's all freaking over, you're all gonna die, it's gonna be horrible, and then 2020 came and went. You know, we did have COVID, I give them that, so maybe there's some, like, they had some tinglies that something bad was going to happen, but COVID was also, like, mostly manufactured by people, and, like, dumb decisions, and the lack of information, and craziness, so, I don't know what to tell you, man, like, but it wasn't the end of the world, right? Things kept going on, things persisted after COVID, right? So we kept going, we kept getting after it, and now, we've got this new wave of people. There's always something on the internet or in some news article being like, this new change will destroy everything you know and love, and it's gonna be the end of the freaking world. But it's probably not. It's probably not going to be the end of the freaking world, okay? It's probably going to keep going. But why do people put this stuff out? Why is there a new article about it every 2 days? Why am I making a video about it? Because it's popular. It sells. Catastrophe sells. The reason is that people love negative news, okay? We love negative news because having a bit of a negativity bias is actually helpful when you're trying to survive in a dangerous world, right? So if there is a massive 8-foot tall, unguarded saw blade whirring in the middle of the street, you need to pay attention and have caution so you're not just like looking at the flowers and walking around and you get cut in half. Obviously, it's an extreme example, but that's kind of the gist, right? We need to be aware of the dangers that are around us so that we can participate in the world in a safe and productive way. But again, highlight those words around us, because a lot of the dangers that are projected are these ethereal, unquantifiable things like AI. It's like, oh no, what's it going to do? We don't know. Nobody knows. And so we're trying to hammer down the risk, and we're looking at all these risks, but we're not actually paying attention to our real lives. And so that's what I want to encourage you to do, okay? Because we're going to see more of what we focus on, right? So if we are focusing on all the existential threats that we could be facing in life, like, oh, it's the end of the world, AI is going to take over the jobs, and it's going to be a catastrophe, and it'll be like the Matrix all over again, but in real life, right? If that's what we focus on, then that's what we're going to see more of. And unfortunately, this effect is amplified by algorithms and people that are trying to steal your attention, right? I'm trying to get your attention right now. I'm putting out a video on, like, maybe is it the end of the world, right? I drew a whole picture. I'm putting in a lot of effort here. But we have to not focus on those things and intentionally recognize the pattern of our own minds to focus on negative things so that we can kind of reach an escape velocity and focus on the things that are actually present and around us, right? Before we had interconnected news, we couldn't see all the negative things happening in the world. If you experienced a hurricane in Haiti and you lived in Manitoba, you could not hear about the hurricane in Haiti because there was no international news, there's no satellite. It's just like, you're like farming in Manitoba, some guy's experiencing like 130-kilometer-an-hour winds in Haiti and having the worst day of his life, but you never heard about it. I'm not saying we can't have compassion for the people around the world going through hard things or suffering, but if we are choosing to focus on the things that we can't impact in our non-immediate surroundings, we're not going to be effective at living life in the place we are now, okay? So I'm not saying this to say that there aren't new challenges and struggles, right? Things are difficult. Everybody's going through a difficult time. I know that the economy is down. I know that Jobs are hard to come by. I know that there's a lot of changes in a ton of different industries, that the money is not flowing in the way that it used to in a lot of our economies, that due to leadership decisions, economic circumstances, population changes, all these things are affecting and making things like a little more challenging. It's a more challenging business environment. It's a more challenging work environment in terms of like finding a job and maintaining a job. There are challenges within the pay structures because wages don't seem to be keeping up with the inflation of assets. Like, I get it. You know, I'm not ignorant to the fact that there are problems in our world, but I kind of want to give perspective about where we are now and like how things have been perceived through history, right? Because there have been significantly worse times in history. And I'm not even necessarily talking about like really recent history. Like we could all point to World War I and World War II and the Korean War, all these things where people died, or like there was the Rwandan genocide, right? People are suffering, people are dying. Their world really is collapsing. It really is the end of their society, and like they're experiencing this local apocalypse that's really horrible. But then there's times in the past too, like there was the bubonic plague. 1/3 of Europe died. Like 1 in 3 people dropped dead. That is, you know, like it's almost like the Thanos snap in Marvel, if you guys have ever seen that movie, where like he snaps his fingers and 50% of the earth disappears instead of snapping his finger and doubling the resources, which like massive plot armor. But this, I'm not here to analyze the Marvel series. Anyway, we have the massive death and destruction of like whole civilizations, right? Like parents without children, parents losing children, or sorry, children without parents. I think it said it weird there. It doesn't matter. Whatever. There's like just people dying everywhere. Societies were falling apart. Old structures fell apart, right? And you would have been right to stand outside of your like medieval serf home and been like wearing your sandwich board sign, the end is nigh, you know? Like, yeah, it looked like it was the end of civilization. They're like, this is the judgment of God. It's the end of the world. And maybe one day somebody will say it's the end of the world and they'll be right. But nobody knows when the end of all things is coming, okay? Nobody can predict the heat death of the universe, or the return of Christ, or whatever you're looking forward to. Like, nobody knows. And we are always trying to find ways to seek control. And I think by saying that it's the end, or by having this apocalyptic perspective, we're able to say that we know, and therefore we feel more certainty, even if it's negative certainty. But I want you to feel hope, right? Like, certainty with negativity is not helpful. I don't want you to be naive. I don't want anybody to be naive. We have to look at the world and be able to operate in the reality that we live in. But also, being a naysayer and a doomsdayer is not going to make you productive. It's not going to make you have better, more meaningful relationships, or more meaningful work, or more meaningful impact and ability to love the people around you, right? That it's just going to stifle your ability to live effectively in the world. And so I'm really privy to the Bible. I like the Bible. I like Jesus stuff. I'm sold on it. If you're not sold on it, I don't really care. It's my YouTube channel. I do what I want. So a verse I wanted to point out was Ecclesiastes 7:10, which says, "Do not say, 'Why were the old days better than these?' For it is not wise to ask such questions." All right? I know that for us specifically, it's very weird because we saw a generation go through this phase after World War II where there was all this innovation, and you could have like an average or even below average intelligence and ability and work and like succeed somehow and like buy a house and travel the world and go on vacations and whatever else, because the dollar was just so powerful and you were able to make so much money, like screwing on toothpaste caps 8 hours a day. It was just, is this really insane, prosperous time. But that's in the past, and we don't live in that time, and griping about not living in that time is not going to help us make things better now. And I think that's why the Bible says it's not wise to ask those questions. It's not that we can't look back and see the differences and see the different patterns and circumstances in which other people lived. It's just that we can't implement change by lamenting the lost past, right? We can only live in the here and now. We can only do what we can do within our realm of experience. So again, is it the end? Probably not. You're probably going to be fine. You know, focus not on negative things. Obviously, be aware of the risks and changes going around you, but try to focus on your immediate circle, the things you can actually impact, the things you like, the things you want to pursue. You know, remember that there are worse times in history, and also remember that yeah, you are going to struggle. There's going to be challenging circumstances. Life is hard on different levels in different ways for different people. But you know, I mean, if you're watching YouTube, you might be in a better circumstance than a lot of people, although I know there's a lot of third world countries where people have cell phones but no running water, which is weird. So you could be watching this with very impoverished circumstances, which for the first time in history is possible, very unique. But I'm just saying, generally, if you're watching this, you're probably doing okay. But I just think we need to have a healthy perspective of nobody knows what's going to happen, and all we can do is impact what we can, right? None of us have the nuclear launch codes for, you know, bringing about the end of the world and like the next ice age or whatever's going to happen if people decide to exchange nuclear warheads. But we can just focus on loving our community, on building skills, on caring about the people around us, focusing on relationships, creating meaning. And yeah, don't worry about the past, man. You can't affect the past, but you can affect the future. And so I want you to have hope. It's not the end of the world. You're going to be okay. Thanks for listening. I hope this was encouraging to you. And yeah, I hope you're able to go out there and experience life in a brighter tone now that you know nobody knows when the end is coming. So just live, love people. Thanks for listening. Bye.